Yeah, hi, good morning. So, like most of the people are asking the recorded video links. So, today I will share the YouTube link. You can access there. So, we'll come back to the last class trying to cover up with Bain Factory. So, today we are going to see one more important concept called application context. You can observe here application context is available in the which package? It is available in org spring framework context package. And yesterday we have discussed the Bean Factory. Bean Factory is available in the factory package. So you need to identify the two interfaces are available in the different packages. Okay. And here, this particular application context is extended from the which interface? Bean Factory. So if you observe here, the base interface is Bean Factory, right? And it is extended to application context. Getting the point now. So whatever the functionality is available in the Bean Factory, so can we access into the application context or not? So this is the inheritance concepts are available in the Java. So whenever we are trying to extend one interface to another interface or one class to another class, so we can able to access the superclass features into subclass. We can able to access the superclass features into the subclass. So same way, so these are the two interfaces, and Bean Factory is a one interface, and application context is also one more interface. Okay. Now in the last class we have covered this particular Bean Factory, and what is the implementation of this particular Bean Factory? Okay. So can you answer only one people are having issue or same other people also having? Okay. So can you please rejoin the meeting? Maybe so you did not join the properly, I guess. So can you please rejoin? Okay. Now observe here. So this is also interface, and we have identified this particular Bean Factory implementation. So that is the XML Bean Factory we have seen. XML Bean Factory we have seen, right? Yesterday we have identified this particular XML Bean Factory, and this particular XML Bean Factory is depending on internally a resource. So why it is depending on the resource? So basically to load the particular configuration file, so we need to specify where the particular configuration file is available. Okay, so for this purpose we need to provide the resource. So yesterday we are using the file system resource, and we specified our particular path. This is our path, and using this particular path we have executed. So now what we are going to cover here, so in the today class we are going to see application context here, and application. So can you please respond the message? So someone is having some audio problem. Okay. So carefully observe here, and we specified this particular path where our application configuration file is available. Okay, this is all about the Bean Factory. And here, so whenever we are defining this particular Bean Factory, So the bean factory is lazy loading. So lazy loading in the sense, what it will do, whenever the particular bean we are calling, so at the time the particular bean is going to initialize in the sense, so it's going to create, and whatever the properties are available is going to initialize those properties. Getting the point? Now, so we'll back to the application context. So as I explained, the application context is also an interface, and the application context is resides in the which package? The org Spring Framework context package. And if you observe, this is available inside the factory package. The context is available in the context package. Okay. So let's see. So how we can write an example using this particular application context here. The same example I'm going to write. So now we have to specify the application context implementation classes here. What are the implementation classes that are available for this interface? So the first one is a class path XML application context. So we focus on the file system. We can focus first. So file system XML application context. Here you can identify how many constructors are you having, and we can identify this is the overloading constructors we are going to call. Overloading construct is nothing but, you can observe here, whenever the particular constructor is having more than one parameter, you can observe this is the default constructor, and the second one is taking application context as a one parameter, and the third one is going to take as a string as a one parameter. So here the fourth one also is going to take as a string parameter, but here it's going to take as a array of object. The fourth one is going to take as a array of string objects here, and other one, so it's going to take array of config location and application context. So this is the way the file system exception context is defined here, and we're going to work on this particular constructor here. Now what I will do, I will copy this and I will paste it here. So we'll work on the application context here. Okay. So whenever we are defining this particular application context, so same way we can work on the get bean. We can work on the same get bean here. Now you can identify this particular file system XML application context is not going to depend on the any resource. So we have identified in the previous, the file XML bean factory is going to depend on the some resource class, but here the application context is not going to depends on the resource here. Okay, now let's save the classes and we'll try to focus on the same example which we run yesterday. So once it is completed, the building workspace, we can run an example. Okay, so it is completed. So you can identify. So the same message which we seen in the earlier in the last class also, but in the last class we focus on the bean factory, but today we are focusing on the application context, right? Now, so instead of working on the file system XML application context, what I will do, I will work on the another example. The same application context I am going to take here, and here class path XML application context. So what is here? It is a one more implementation of the particular application context here. And you can identify here, it is also having overloaded constructors. So because you can identify taking more than one parameter, so those are into the different data types. So we'll focus on this particular config location. What I will do, I will copy up to this. Okay, now I'm saving the main file. So once we save, what we can do, I'm trying to run the same example. You can identify here, again we are getting the same message. So getting the point. But here, what are the difference here? First we have seen file system XML application context, and now so we are seeing the class path XML application context. So can you explain me, so what you identified regarding these two classes here? First one is the file system XML application context, and the second one is class path XML application context. Can you explain me what you identified as of now regarding these two classes? No? No idea? So first, okay. So I'm not seeing any response from you, but I'm not sure like whether you are understanding or do I need to explain one more time. So can you please respond whether is first it is audible or not? Yeah, okay. Thank you. So now, so carefully identify here, whenever we are working on this particular file system XML context, so what I specified here, I specified where this particular config file is available. So from the entire direction. Okay, basically, so one person is suggested like, can you please repeat? Okay. So observe here, basically what I want to explain, application context is a one interface. So same way which we created yesterday, just imagine how we created in the last class. Greeting service is one interface, right? The greeting service is implemented from this particular class called greeting service IMPL. So how it is implemented? So you can identify greeting service IMPL and which is implemented from the greeting service. Whenever this particular greeting service implemented, what we are doing here, we are calling say greeting method. We are calling say greeting method. Same way, if we come back to here, application context is a one interface and which is implemented these two classes. First one is file system XML application context. So if you want to know, let me open the class. You can identify abstract application context is in one class here, and so he can check here. This particular configurable application context is extended from the application context. So this I'm trying to explain here, this application context. And here, this application context is implemented in, so if you are having some basic knowledge, you can easily and here, this is the file system application context. But if I extend it from here, this application abstract XML application context, right? Again, it is extended. If I'm going to this particular, again it is extended from the subclasses. So same way, finally, figure it out. This is the application context is externally is implementing, right? So what now come back, so this is the implementation of our application context class. This is our implementation of application context class. So whenever the particular class is implemented, what we are doing here, so we are going to specify some configuration file here, so that the container is going to create the beans which are defined inside our Spring configuration file. Okay, observe here the same the constructors we have seen whenever we are trying to specify the configuration file here. So observe here, this is the default constructor and this is the parameterized constructor. You can identify all are having the constructors only. All are having the constructors. So up to these are the constructors. This is the one method called get resource by path. So we'll see later regarding this, but other than this, we don't have much information inside this particular file system XML application context. Getting the point. Now back to our example. Okay. So now we are into our main class. This particular file system XML application context is going to take the configuration file entire path where this particular configuration file is available. So that's the reason I specified this file. This particular configuration file resides in a particular path. So something called C:user something called. So up to getting the point. So this is we have to specify whenever we are working on the file system XML application context. But now back to the class path XML application context. So compare here, I did not specify the exact path where this particular Spring config is available. Right. Now you may have one doubt here. Without specifying the particular path, how this configuration file is loading here. How the particular configuration file is loading. So because the difference between these two classes here, the file system, whenever we are specifying the entire path, is going to identify it inside this particular location, and once the file is available, is going to load. If the file is not available, so we may get file not found exception because we have a file, so we did not get any exception here. And come back to the class path XML application context, and this particular class is going to look inside this particular src directory. Getting the point. This class path XML application is going to look inside the src. Src is nothing but source directory. So other than the source directory, if it is not available, again is going to give an error. So that's the reason I did not specify the exact path of this particular our Spring configuration file. So any doubt still? No. Okay. So now we'll open our configuration file where we define our configuration file. So this is our Spring configuration file. Right. Now what we are doing here, internally we created one bean and we specified the one constructor injection here, and again the particular bean is depending on other bean, so that is also we have defined here. Getting the point. But now what we are doing here, so whenever we are going to call this particular round table, what is doing here, internally the container is going to load this configuration and is going to identify whether the bean having ID with round table. If it is available, it will try to create an object of this particular bean, and along with this particular bean, if it is having any constructor injection or setter injection, is going to initialize those injection related information here. Right. Now you have identified the flow of execution, how the container will create and how the container is loading the each and every object which we define in the configuration file. Okay, so now what is the difference between this particular bean factory and the application context? So what is the difference between these two? So basically, bean factory, what it will do, whenever we are trying to call this particular get bean, whenever we are going to call the get bean with some bean ID, at the time only the bean factory is going to create an object of the beans which we are providing in our configuration file. Getting the point? So again, you will have some doubt here. So first what it will do, when we are using this bean factory, first it will load configuration file. After loading the configuration file, it will not create an object. So just it will load the configuration file. So whenever we are calling this particular get bean, whenever we are calling this particular get bean, at this time, again, the container will look, again, the container go to the configuration file, we look for the particular bean. What is the bean it's going to look? So based on our example, is going to look for the ID called round table. Whenever the bean is identified, so now it's a time to create an object of this particular round table, and this particular bean is closed here, and whatever the information is available inside this particular, so it will try to create and it will try to initialize any information we have specified in our configuration file. So this is the, and the bean factory is going to work internally and come back to the application context here. So application context, so it's going to load initially when the time of this particular config file is going to load, right? And here by default, whatever the beans we are defining in the particular configuration file, so those beans are singleton. Those beans are singleton. So singleton in the sense, only one object is created for our entire application. So the same object we are going to reuse wherever we require. Getting the point? So now observe here. When we are using this particular application context, what it will do? Initially, the round table object, along with the round table object, it will try to create this particular Holy Grail IMPL2, right? So without, even we are not using, also it will create, but it will keep in the memory location. Whenever we require, it will pass the same object based on the ID. So based on the ID, the container is going to pass this particular object information. But now, so those objects by default singleton. It will not create a multiple object for the same bean. Only one object will create, and the container will use the same object whenever we require. So this is the internal working flow of the application context. Getting the point? Okay, so along with this, so as I explained, the particular bean factory is a super interface and application context is a sub interface. Getting the point? So here the bean factory, so something called bean factory is our super interface, and application context is a sub interface. And here we are having extends keyword. Here we are having extend keyword. So that this application context can access the properties or the properties which we define in the bean factory. Getting the point? And along with this feature, application context have some additional features. The application context has some additional features. So for example, if we want to load any images, like if we want to load any resource file, like images or any JavaScript or CSS file, so that will not applicable in the bean factory. So that is accepted by the application context, right? So it is having some additional features. Along with this, if we want to convert any messages, so some example, if we observe, so we are having one application here. So something called username and password. So something I have a submit button, but I forget to enter the username and I added something called the password. I added some password. Now, whenever I'm trying to click on this particular submit, so what message we have to show? So please enter the some username, because we forget to enter the username. So that is fine. And we want to show the message in the different language. We want to show the same message in the something called the different language. So how we are going to show? So that is applicable in this particular application. We are going to call internalization. We are going to call internalization concept. So using this particular I18N, we can convert the message into different languages. So like by default we can use the English, or other than English, if you want to convert, we can work on this internalization concept. Getting the point. So this particular concept will not applicable will not supported in the particular container called Bean Factory. So these are the additional features are available in a application context. Getting the point. So this is very important wherever like when we can use the Bean Factory and where we can use this particular application context. So any questions regarding these two, the difference between Bean Factory and application context? So can you please respond? So with no, okay. Okay, thank you. All good. Nice. So what we are doing, so we have covered the particular Bean Factory and application context as of now, and we have seen the two example using the file system and as well as class path XML application context. So here I want to work on the constructor injection. So yesterday we have seen some example on the constructor injection. So today I'm going to provide more information. So can you please work along with me? If I'm going to ask any questions, can you please respond as soon as possible? So that I can expect like whether your understanding, do I need to explain one more time or not? Okay. So observe. So I am creating one interface here. The interface name called performer. Okay, and this particular interface having one method. This the performer having one method called okay perform. Okay, let me save this interface. Now what I am doing here, I am trying to implement this performer interface. What is the name of the class I am taking here? Let me use performer IMPL. So that we can easily identify this is the implementation of this particular form. And now it is implemented from the performer. Let me implement this particular method called perform. Here what I am doing here, I want to provide one property. I want to provide one property called beanbags is equals to 3. Okay, what I am doing here, I'm trying to define the property and I'm trying to initialize the property, declaring and initializing. So I'm doing at line number 4 here. Okay, so once we specified what I can do, this is the one constructor, and I have to make one more constructor here. I want to make one more constructor here. So it's going to take int as into one data type I want to specify here. This dot beanbags is equals to beanbags. Okay, so can you tell me, if I want to call this particular perform method, what are the steps we need to follow? What are the steps we need to follow? And whenever we are going to call this perform method, so I'm trying to print some message here, something called okay. Now tell me, what are the steps I need to follow here? So if you observe here, I'm using constructor injection. I'm using constructor injection. I did not specify any method as of now. All are having constructor related information. So can you tell me, if I want to call this perform method, so what are the steps we need to follow? So whatever you are trying to think, so can you please message me or communicate with me? So whether it is wrong or right, so that is a different. So just I will know like how we are thinking. Here only one line we can specify it. So that where I need to specify it, that is I'm expecting. No idea? Oh, really? Okay. So back to, say, you can think component. So basically, I want to call this perform method. So how we can call in the Java? Any idea? I want to call this perform method. So what are the steps we need to follow? Okay. So, okay, no problem. Observe here, go back to this particular configuration file. So why we need to use, any idea why we need to use this particular configuration file here? In the first day I explained why we need to use this particular configuration file here. No, it is not loose coupling. See, basically in Java, manually we are going to create an object, but here we are giving an information, the container will create an object. What information we are going to specify? What are the classes we are going to use in our application? So those classes information we are going to specify in the particular this configuration file. So if you are not specifying any information here, how the container will know like what kind of object the container will create? So that is where to specify the configuration of to specify the classes information. So we are going to use this configuration file here. So that's the reason I'm explaining one more time. If you go to the core main class, we are doing here, we are specifying the configuration file. Why we are specifying here? So this is the class path XML application context is a container. Whenever we are creating this particular class path object, container object will create here. The once a container object is created, it will like to load this configuration file. Why it is loading? Because so inside this particular configuration file only we are going to specify the classes which we are used in our application. So that classes we use, these are the classes we use, but we want an object. We want an object to access the methods, anything information which is resides in the particular class. So without the object, we cannot access. So how the objects will create? The objects are created by the container. Getting the point? So this is very important here. Okay. So back to our configuration file, bean ID. So something called performer I want to specify. And here, what is the class? So can you tell me what is the name of the class? Here I want to specify the class. So which class I need to specify? To call this particular perform method. To call this perform method, which class I need to specify? Performer AMPL. Exactly. Good. So here this particular performer AMPL we need to specify. But along with the performer AMPL, we need to specify where this class is available. Where this particular class is available. This class available inside this folder called Java technology dot performer AMPL. Right. Now I want to save this example. Go back to our main example. So instead of round table, what I will do, I will call this performer. Here we can take as a interface reference also. Now, okay, we will make as it is this round table, the reference. Let me change the reference also. And do performer dot perform. Performer dot perform. So again, I want to explain. Carefully observe here. Carefully identify. So this is the interface, right? So this is the interface, and this method also available in the interface. But whenever I am calling, the message is coming from the implementation class. If you observe carefully, the message will print this. Getting the point? But to some people, they may expect why this method will not call. So here, method is declare or method is this particular method is just to be defined here. Getting the point? This method is defined in the interface, but this method is initialized. The particular method is initialized in where? In the IMPL class. In the IMPL class. So whenever we are going to call this perform method, so the perform method will call wherever the method is overridden, or we can call it initialized. Getting the point? So here the particular method is overridden. So this line is going to execute whenever we are calling the perform. So this method will not execute, just we declare the method. So like we want to use for any like performance operations. So that's the reason we define this method inside the interface. Okay, getting the point. So basically these are the concepts from the Java, not in the Spring. Okay, so maybe some people they may get some confusion here, why it is not calling, why it is calling here. Okay, back to our current example. Back to our example where we are. Okay, now so I save the all. Let me run this example. You can identify here the bean bags, how many we are getting? 3. Okay, so one more question I have. Observe carefully. I don't want to use 3. I want to use dynamic value. So this is the static value I provided in the class level. So I don't want to use this particular 3. So how can I specify? So whenever I want to call this particular perform method, the example I'm telling, it has to print 15. It has to be print 15. So how can I write? So what information I need to change? Any idea? Just give me an idea, that is fine. Like what you are thinking, whether it is wrong or right. So I will try to clear up your doubts. No? Okay. So do I need to show the previous example? Observe here. The previously we defined like this. Can we use this property to change the 3 bean bags to 15? Yes or no? Oh, no answer. Okay. So fine. So basically this is the static value I don't want to use. But how we can change the value? So here we have an option. Whenever the object is creating, the container will call this particular constructor. Whenever the container is trying to create an object or this particular performer AMPL, what it will do? It will call the constructor. So here the constructor having one parameter. So it's taking the bean bags. So we can define the bean bags here. So let's see how we can define. Observe here. Okay. Here we are having this particular constructor. I want to specify like this. I want to specify this particular value called 15. So let me save here. Again, go back to the main class. I'm running the example. You can observe here. We are getting the 15 or not? So now I'm expecting whatever your doubts are having. So it is clear, I guess, because now what you are understanding is whenever we are specifying this bean, again I'm trying to explain something called bean ID, and here the class we specified here, what it will do internally, what is doing here internally, it will call, because here we are having two constructors. One is the default constructor and one more is parameterized constructor, but we specified the parameter in our config file. This is the parameter, this is the one parameter. Now what it will do, while creating an object, something called by creating this particular object, it will pass this particular 15 here. So now you can expect here this particular performer is a constructor and is going to take one parameter called 15. So it is matching same or not? It is matching or not? It is a constructor and it is taking one parameter, the one same parameter we are passing the 15. So the 15 is going to initialize in the beanbag, and this is the local variable. Again we are initializing into the class level variable called beanbags. So the same thing we are accessing after executing the constructor also, because we initialize the value into class level. Maybe you will think, what about 3? The 3 values overridden with 15. Initially the beanbags 3, but whenever this constructor is called, the 3 is going to override with 15. So this is the way the constructor injection will work. Again, I want to specify one more example. I want to write one more example here. So observe here. Here, okay. Let me add one more class here. So performer IMPL2. The performer IMPL2 is extends from the, basically these are the core Java concept here. So there is no much information inside the string, but only whatever the information I am going to add in the function, so that is related to string. Observe here, the performer IMPL2 is extended from the performer IMPL. Okay, now once it is extended, what I am doing here, I want to create one more interface here. I want to create one more interface here. So the poem looking, and this particular interface having one method called receipt. Getting the point? Observe here. This is this particular poem I want to specify in the particular class called performer IMPL2. So how we can specify? Private. Okay. So this is the way we can specify. And now observe here. I want to call the constructor of this particular. I want to call this particular constructor with the interface by passing this interface here. This dot poem is equals to, okay. So carefully observe, and along with this, what I am doing here, I am calling super here. I am calling super here. Right. Now one constructor. I want to define one more constructor here. I want to define one more constructor into beanbags. And so let's see. Super beanbags. Okay. And one more here. Instead of writing, I will copy this. So it is a simple example. So now what I am doing here, I want to call the perform method. I want to call this perform method, and along with this, what I am doing here, I am calling the superclass perform method, and as well as I want to print some message. Yes, what I am trying to write here, perform method is called in performer IMPL2 class. Okay, after that, with this particular interface reference, I have one method called this particular receipt method I am calling. So carefully observe here, I am using super keyword here. I am using super keyword here. Okay, first we'll try to implement this class. Let me write one more class here. The class called poem IMPL I am implementing. So one implement, first we'll try to add the poem here, and let me implement the receipt method here. So I don't want to write more inside this method, simple one message. Inside. Okay. Now tell me. So again same thing. I want to call this perform here. But here, whenever we are calling this perform, so what are the steps is doing here? So that is very important here. Observe here. So first, whenever we are calling this constructor, whenever we are calling this constructor is having one parameter. It's taking the parameter one interface type. So now we are calling the default constructor of the superclass. And who is the superclass here? So up to now, like the performer IMPL is a superclass. So if we go to this particular performer IMPL, we have one constructor. The default constructor will execute, but we are not specifying any information here. Okay, simply it will execute. So it's not going to update any information here. Come back to here. Right. If you are calling this particular constructor, this constructor having two parameters. This constructor having two parameters. One is taking into bags and one more taking again the interface type here. So now whenever we are calling this particular super bean bags, which constructor is going to call? This constructor will execute. This constructor will execute and is going to change the default bean bag with whatever we are going to specify in our configuration file. And to come back to here, again the object like interface object we are passing into local variable to our class level variable. After that, whenever we are calling this perform, so again the super class perform method will execute and later the poem related receipt method will call. Right. So now tell me what are the steps we need to follow. Again here, so what are the steps we need to specify in a configuration file? So can you please suggest me, because I think I explained in the last example. Maybe you'll have some idea what we need to specify in the particular config here. Still you're having the doubts? Okay. So first tell me which class object we need to create. So one by one we can fix it out. No? Really wondering. And the scanner property, bean ID, scanner property. Sorry, we will not use the scanner here. Okay, bean ID poem performer IMPL. Okay, cool. So someone is trying to provide information. Okay, so property bean ID performer IMPL2. That's fine. Okay, observe here. I'm expecting from the more only 2-3 people are responding. Okay, observe here. First, what I will do, I will comment this. Again, I want to specify bean ID. Good. So performer IMPL2, correct? And the ID again I want to use the same. So that is called performer. And class here, the class you want to use IMPL2. And the way the class is available inside this package com.java technology dot performer IMPL2. If you miss any character also will get an error. Okay, so that is very important. And now, okay, so we'll try to focus on the second constructor. So we'll try to focus on the second constructor. If we go to this class, so we'll see later this. First we'll focus on this constructor. Okay, now if you want to focus on this constructor, how many parameters taking this constructor? It's taking 2 parameters. So how many constructor value we can specify? How many constructors value we can specify here? 1 constructor value and 2. The constructor tags we can specify the 2, but 1 constructor is going to have with a value and 1 constructor is going to have with a reference. Why am I specifying the reference here? Because this is the object. This is the object type and this is the primitive data type. Getting the point? So this particular primitive data type we can specify as a value when we are using this object style. So we need to specify the reference here. Okay, so back to here, the back to constructor args value I want to specify 20. So the constructor I want to add, so simply instead of value, so the whenever we are specifying this ref, so what we need to do here, so whenever we are specifying the ref, so if we want to know, like we have used the ref in the previous example also, so we need to specify we need to create a one more bean with this ID. We need to create a one more bean. So here what bean we need to create here, because poem is an interface, right? And what is the implementation of this particular poem? What is the, so that is poem IMPL. Poem IMPL is an implementation. So now observe bean ID is equals to the same we need to take and do class again com dot java technology poem IMPL. This is the way we can specify. This is the way we can specify and go back to the our main class. Run on the example. Oh, let me check. We have an exception here. Performer. Okay, something I given as a small. Let me check here the perform MPL. So as I explained, the class name we need to specify it properly. Go back to the class. Okay, let me save the class and do. You can observe here. So these main information is it is called. So observe here. Previously we specified bean bags with the 15, but now we specified 20, and now this particular perform method is called from the performer IMPL2, and after that what we are doing is this method is called from the poem IMPL. So carefully observe. I want to explain one more time here. Maybe most of the people they may have some doubt. Okay, so to clear your doubt, what I will do, I will put a point here. So maybe that I think this is better, so that you will have some idea how exactly it's going to work here. Let me go to the main class. Now, so see carefully. So this is line by line is going to execute here. I will provide more information on the example. Okay, observe here this perform the constructor is calling here. You can identify the bean bags we specified as a 20. Right now, this is a one object here. What object we are getting here? Object we are getting poem IMPL object. Right. So where we specified here? We specified these two information in our configuration file. Getting point. Now it is calling super. It is calling the super. Let me put a breakpoint here. Whether it is calling here or not, we can easily identify. Okay, you can check here. It is called here. Which class it is called? Performer IMPL it is called. From the which class? From the performer IMPL2, because of this line number 11. because of this line number 11, where it is calling here in the performer MPL, the second constructor it is called. And what is doing here? Beanbags is 20. And now you can check what is the beanbags here. So the class level beanbags having 3. Right. Now, if I'm going to click on this F6, you can observe here the beanbags is changed with 20. Previously it was 3, now it is changed to 20. Getting the point how the values are changing here. Okay, now where it will, if we observe carefully, this line is called just now, again it back to the line number 12. What we are doing here, we are trying to assign this object here. We want to know, so the poem is null, the class level poem is null. So after executing this line number 12, you can observe the poem we received the object here. Getting the point, the poem one object we received. Okay, so now this is called, so this particular constructor is executed. I'm clicking F8. Whenever we are calling the perform, but if you want to know from the where this perform method is called, you can check here. You can check. This is from here. This is calling from line number 20, and from the line number 20, it is called line number 15 of this particular class called performer IMPL2. Again, where it will go? Super.perform. If I am going to click on this particular F5, you can identify perform method is calling on the particular performer IMPL, and the beanbags how many we have? At present we have 20. So if I am going to click on F6, it is printing 20. Now where it is coming? Initially it is called from the line number 15. Now it is calling the line number 16. So now the line number 16 is executed. So again I'm calling the line number 17. So where it is coming here? The poem IMPL. The poem IMPL, the receipt method is executing. This is the way the particular 3 information we are able to see on our console. So this is the way the flow of execution is going to happen whenever we are calling the perform method. Any questions regarding this particular example? So this is very important, how we can work on the constructor injection here. Whenever you are having something called wrapper class objects or primitive data type or custom object which is defined by the developer, so how we can initialize those objects. So that is we have identified in the 2 classes. So first one is performer IMPL and the second one is performer IMPL 2. Let me check message box. Okay. So any questions? Okay. So if we don't have any questions, so we can conclude the today class and we can see in tomorrow with more information regarding. Yeah. So today I will share the particular videos link. So give me some time because I uploaded only one video as of now. So I will try to upload the remaining classes in the YouTube. I will share the YouTube link. You can access there, and along with this, I will try to provide the code structure also. You can work on there. Like so, as of now, I did not create any the particular GitHub link here. So today I will create and I will share in the WhatsApp, so you can access there whatever the code we are going to practice.